Good afternoon, and welcome to Coverings Connected and Creative Designs and Successful Installations with Geometric Tile. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items. All attendees are in listen-only mode. You can submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the chat section of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation, and we will get to as many as time allows. If you're having problems connecting or any other issues, often closing the window and starting a new window will fix the problem. If you're having problems with your computer audio, call the number on your invitation to listen via your phone. Make sure to visit the website to take advantage of other great National Tile Day content and take time to share your tile success stories on Covering social media. I'd now like to introduce Bart Bettiga, Executive Director, National Tile Contractors Association, and Elena Capra, Covering Spokesperson and owner, Elena Capra Designs. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, and happy National Tile Day, everybody. And happy National Tile Day to you, Elena. How are you today?
I'm great, Bart. Happy National Tile Day. It's a great day. We love February 23rd. And of course, we love talking about tile. And I'm excited to do that with you today.
You know, you and I go way back. You did an installation showcase with Coverings before you became a spokesperson for Coverings. And we go way back working together. So do you remember any thoughts about that and maybe what you learned as far as hiring good qualified tile installers as the importance of to work with when you are putting designs together?
Absolutely. That was Bart. So that was the first installation and design showcase that Coverings did. And that was my first time attending Coverings. And it was awesome. I worked with Artcraft and they were so good. And it was my first experience working with amazing tile contractors and seeing that we built a bathroom installation live at the show. Like there was six bathroom vignettes, and seeing that built and tiled live at the show over the course of the days and working with such craftsmen and experts. I mean, I picked out a multitude of different types of tile. I had a mini mosaic in glass. I had some larger format stuff, some beautiful murals. We're talking about mural trends. Back then, there was still some beautiful tile with printed patterns, and seeing it all come together and being able to use so many different types of tile, it was a lot of fun, and it really was an amazing experience working with so many great people and such qualified installers as well.
I really wanted to bring that up. I appreciate you sharing that because to me, that was kind of the beginning here at the National Tile Contractors Association of kind of our direction, which is to really stress the importance of both the design and the specification and the installation. And I thank you for helping me do that. I remember it was a peacock. It was a beautiful blue peacock installation. And as you said, our NTCA 5-star contractor member, Artcraft Granite Marble and Tile, did that installation, and that was great. So today we're talking about geometric tile. And before we got on with everybody, I prefaced it to you that I got like a C minus in geometry. So I'm not the pro when it comes to geometric tile, but we have members that do an incredible job. When I say geometric tile, I think that one thing that our trainer Rob Roderick told me is, Bart, everything's geometric, right? Even squares are geometric. But what we're talking about is kind of the explosion of a lot of different types of materials. I'm showing a little bit. This is a David Allen Company 5-star contractor member of ours who did the Atlanta Braves Stadium. So we're not talking about just residential. We're talking about commercial installation as well. This is really a beautiful job that they did. This particular stadium had many different areas and restaurants, and there was a lot of geometric tile used. So, Elena, when I mention geometric tile, we're talking about what? Squares, rectangles, octagons, triangles, trapezoids, hexagons, parallelograms, utilizing multiple patterns such as your squares and diagonal or chevrons. What am I missing? Am I missing anything else?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. You said you didn't geometry, you have it covered, because we've gotten, I think there's so many and so many different I think scales of these different geometric shapes is exciting as well, because we're not only working with really large format but smaller format as well.
So tell me, so what I'm getting into here is the design components. Walk me through. Well, I guess I have two questions. The first is, as a designer, what of the how much? I mean, you've always worked with multiple shapes or patterns. What's changed in the past couple of years to make that trend, even much more significant? I'm obviously thinking about introductions of lots of different new materials. But how much of this has changed, in your opinion? And my other question is, do you see this as a fad, or do you see this in our industry continuing?
Well, I think I see it continuing. So I've been designing for about 20 years. And when I started, I worked heavily in the kitchen and bath industry, Bart. So working with a lot of bathroom design and of course a lot of kitchen backsplash. And, when I started, it was, smaller mosaic and subway tile and things and 4x4s and things like that, a lot of inserts and decorative stuff. And now having, as the years go on, so many options with geometric tile. And we're talking, like you mentioned, the hexagons, from like the mini hex to the larger, even the three-dimensional hex, as I've seen in some of your photos, and just sort of people not being as, I think, kind of stepping outside the box of what was thought of as traditional clean lines. Of course, that's still a great look and is still desired by many, but I'm seeing a lot more homeowners and just wanting to have more fun with shapes. And something else that you can really do, and from a design standpoint, is once you start doing different shapes, really playing with the grout color to pop that shape in your design. So I think it's something that's here to stay and that we're seeing continuing to evolve. Earlier today, we talked about some of the new tile trends, and like shapes in different scales is something we are seeing. So from beyond the hexagon, the triangle, just different shapes and different scales of those shapes. So I think it continues to evolve.
So to pique my curiosity, what, as a designer, you hear about a project. How do you then decide you're going to work with this kind of material? Is this something you often will suggest or recommend to the client or to the builder or to the remodeling contractor, or do they come to you with a concept or an idea? How do you approach that?
So most of what I do with the clients I work with, whether residential or commercial, I always like to bring to them, I obviously listen to what they're looking to achieve, but I think tile is one of the best parts of a project because you really can do something so different and so unique with your design based on how you put it all together. So, we pull different materials, and then the best part is sort of playing with all the different materials, your shower floor, your wall tile. Are you doing an accent in the niche? Are you going to do something different on the floors? Yesterday, we were just working with clients picking out stuff for their bathrooms. And I love putting different things together and allowing people to see different combinations of the different materials, because I think that is what allows us to truly create unique designs with tile.
That's great. So I know you did a session this morning on trends, and I know that some of the geometric patterns are meeting the trends, but tell me a little bit about colors. This particular installation was a CID award-winning member of NTCA's, Mark Christensen, and this is one of the greens that was in last year. Can you is this still hot, or tell me a little bit about some newer color trends?
Absolutely. So first of all, this is a beautiful installation, and I mean, you could see the way it wraps into the niche, how beautiful. And then the color just brings that to even the next level. And we are still seeing a lot of this color palette, sort of the greens and all shades of greens, from leafier greens to more jewel tones, emerald. So the greenish hue is sort of all encompassing. So this is definitely still very much on trend and very beautiful.
So as I'm following through with this, I agree with you. I just think this was just an excellent installation. When you're specifying with these kinds of products, you have to think about the functionality of the product. As you can see on the shower floor, he used a smaller tile. He does have the drain centered on the shower floor. He did not put this particular one on the floor itself. Mark talked about, really thinking about what installation materials do you need to utilize in a shower such as this? When you're working with products like this, at times I'll get into it a little bit, but you have to determine, is this handmade? What's the squareness and the shape of these materials? What's the thickness variations? And then you select the appropriate installation method and installation materials for that. So this is just an example. I'm sure, Elena, you do all the time, is you have to look at what's the tile that you're selecting, and what is the anticipated performance of this tile. This is just an example of a scratch hardness on the Mohs scale. Can you use these products on floors or walls? I don't know if, Elena, you look at another important one is the shade variation rating, which is on the far right. That's important for a client because it helps you understand, is this tile supposed to be shaded, or is this supposed to be all one consistent color? Just some examples of
don't
what
want any surprises.
Yeah, no surprises. And so just the examples of what a specifier and a designer have to be involved in, along with the tile contractor, is to select the proper installation method. So on the left, the TCNA handbook is very important. And then on the right is the ANSI specification. This is important for geometric tiles for both the ANSI A108 installation standards, but also for ANSI A137.1, which is your manufacturing standards. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. I'm just giving some examples of installation considerations. This is kind of an interesting product on some, like for instance, some of the newer tiles that are, say it's a 7-inch hexagon or an 9-inch product. Well, we consider large format tile currently in the handbook to be any one side that's 15 inches. But these products are kind of unique in the sense that they probably still need to be addressed for flatness and subsurface tolerances. If it's over 15 inches, if it's a large format tile, that subsurface tolerance allowance is an 1/8 inch and 10 feet. Under that is a 1/4 inch and 10 feet. But these products, I think, need consideration related to more flatness requirements. So this is where I think it's important to understand what the tile is. So you might want to get samples of the tile because you want to look at the squareness and the thickness variations. And handmade is the product. Handmade is also very important at times. So the tile installer has to consider all of that. And that factors into their pricing. Elena, how does pricing work for you with these geometrics? Do you get involved with the total cost, the installation cost, or do you hand over the design? Or when you are talking about budgets, how is that addressed with you?
So once we have our design together, we will always send the plans to the installers to get that priced out. And then if we have to tweak anything for budgetary purposes, we will before ordering all of the product and finalizing the project. But I think that is such an important point when you brought up, because sometimes there's certain product we're specifying that we need to know how much that might impact budget or other things to consider, because it's not all the same.
That's a really great point. And often I think what's important, this is another reason why I think it's so important for design and installation to get together sometimes, and that the distributor plays a role here too, is to set the expectations with your client from a cost standpoint up front, right? Rather than to get all creative and then find out later that the labor is going to inhibit you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So I think a lot of that also comes from experience as well, right? Because when you're doing this stuff, you're learning, oh, I'm going to specify this. This is going to kind of put us in this range. So obviously a lot of it learns in doing, but we say that really kind of leaning on one another. I feel like I learned so much from the installers that I work with, and as different products enter the market and different types of applications, we have to, that synergy is so great to kind of keep going, because I'm learning things that I might not have known, and that in regards to the installation that we have to think about and to educate our clients about that as well.
Yeah, I think that ties into a couple bullets. These are just examples of what members sent me when I talked to them about, setting expectations, as you said, being completely transparent, examining the tile, taking a look at requesting samples of the tile so that they can do perhaps a mock-up or a layout, and try to anticipate what the amount of work goes into working with a pattern or these multiple different shapes. Some of them said that it could be up to twice as much time to lay out, cut, and fit, especially in the niches and getting all of that to fit. So a lot of times, rather than giving an estimate up front, they ask to consider a day rate or certainly a time and materials type bid. Commercially, you don't have that luxury all the time. So a couple of my members said on commercial, that's where, you find out, does the tile meet ANSI A137.1, which are your standards for manufacturing tile? If it doesn't meet that, then, and handmade tiles often don't, then you request samples of that material, you do a layout, and you then determine what your labor cost factor would be, because you might have to do a lot of cutting and maybe some different grout size accommodations, open up the grout joint a little bit. So all of those factors come into play. One member and a couple of our trainers told me that the use of a story pole is really, this is very common with a lot of installations, especially if you want to lay out your cuts and mark all of your grout joints, to get out of wood or metal, whatever, and utilize a story pole in really planning your cuts ahead of time. But it's really a best practice. It's not an installation specification, but it's a best practice that's utilized by a lot of our members to speed up the process once you lay out your cuts and your grout joint. Elaine, I want to talk to you a little bit about this. These are different ways you can do these inside corners, outside corners. Do you fold? Do you mirror the cuts? When you're doing a design, do you get involved in that, or is this all part of the layout? What's your role when you're to get your design the way you really envisioned it when it comes to how the installers do this kind of work?
So we will definitely provide wall elevations in this case with the tile scale, but we always will work on site with the installer because things can change, as you know, on site. We're going to go over specific things, and this, I mean, the way that lines up is so nice on both of these images, and I think it's so important. For me, it's always about just the communication and making sure we'll have something on drawings, but I always will kind of notate on my drawings that actual, on site, we will kind of make final determination of any specific detailed things that we might need to discuss.
Yeah, I love both of these pictures. So what's interesting to me on the one on the right is that they utilized the field tile, not the smaller tile, in part of the shelves, yeah. Right? And whereas sometimes it's not. So is that your decision or the client's decision or the installer's decision, would you guess?
So I think so. When we're in the design phase, for me, this is something I always talk about. I actually love the way they did that. I like wrapping the rest of the wall tile in and then letting, if there's a smaller mosaic or something more interesting, shine on the flat back wall. So this is an application that I actually do a lot, and I love this. And then maybe framing with Schluter or whatever to finish the edge. I think it's a client. It's actually also, it's based on the product too, because it might be a specific tile that we want. In the picture you showed with the kind of greenish aqua hexagon, they chose to run the product through inside the niche and on the back wall. And in that case, it was very impactful and it looked beautiful like that because it gave that seamless look. In this case, that little accent of the mosaic is just popping. So it really depends on the way you want the specific tile you're specifying to shine. And we kind of discuss that with our clients, especially in residential applications, get real specific, but then also work with the installer because maybe there's something that they might say, hey, this is a thinner tile, the things we have to change, what we have to do to make it look just, so like we always, there has to be a conversation with all parties.
It's absolutely a collaborative process. So this is another example, right? This is where they, look. Yeah, I mean, I love this. It's where they carry this through. This is another example of the collaborative process between design and the installer and the client.
Yeah, that looks
So this is the use of profile strips, right? So you mentioned the Sluter. So you have to, this is very common with these kinds of products, I would assume.
yes. And I think it's a way to also enhance the design as well as finish the edge. We use it decoratively a lot.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, this is a unique product, and I see the way they carried that through is all, so that is not a mirroring, but that's a folding, right? That's what we would call that. Have you seen, what's this design? I don't even know what this design is. This is a unique product, I think.
Yeah, no, and this is, I can't tell, is this it looks like a glass, it looks like a glass tile. I can't tell in the sort of the right side. I think I see a little bit of a sheen, like a glass, but I'm not sure. But this sort of wavy mosaic is beautiful, and I love the way they brought in the other color above it. You know, you could really kind of mix that up. And when I'm looking at the way the niche was done, also in this case, I love that the white frames it out, because that again pops it, and then it allows you to enjoy the way the pattern wraps around the entire shower.
Yeah, that
Seamless.
just shows you the opportunity to do, to do these benches and shelves and niches, all different. It's really a lot of design opportunities, and a lot of these projects are done by NTCA members. Some of them are certified tile installers, some of them are 5-star contractors, but just a lot of our members reached out to me and sent me a lot of different installations, and thought we'd just kind of share with you almost a photo montage, if you will, and Elena can make comments about any. But so, this is an example of utilizing in a bar top, or in a bar area, utilizing both the front of the bar and the backsplash. Countertops are an option for this, both commercial and residential projects. Really see a lot of this in the showers and bathrooms, and really anywhere, kitchens and entryways, exterior applications and decks. Is it round? Are those those are almost, no, they're not penny rounds. They're actually
the mini hex. Yeah, it's just got that edge, the little edge where it almost appears as circular because of the edge is sort
and
of.
is that an example of a trending color? It's almost a blue, green, aquamarine. Is that right?
Yes, and we have seen that color trending over, like I would say, like the last 2 years, and it continues with this color. I feel like is something that will always stay because it's reminiscent of water tones and things found in nature. And we're seeing so much of the color palettes today, the bolder hues are hues that are found in nature, and this is one of them.
This was, again, the Atlanta Braves stadium. I had shown before a hexagon, and now here, I'm not sure what the shape this is. Do you know what they would call this particular shape?
I think of it as an elongated hex. I'm sure there's another name for it, but for me, I like this in this scale, and I also love it in a mini mosaic. And it's funny because I love it when it's done vertically like that, but also when you flip it and you have the wider part horizontally on like a backsplash where it really elongates the line. But in this case, I really love the application and scale.
What I like about this really becomes a focal point of that room, doesn't it? It's beautiful.
Yeah, if you look at even the soffits and the detail on the left corner of the ceiling, they sort of mimic, those angular shapes sort of mimic the shapes of the tile, and it's nice.
And our hexagon's still hot. I mean, this is really clean. You've got metallic hexagons. You've got the green we showed earlier. Are you designing a lot with hexagon shapes?
Yeah, I'm still using it. I mean, I've been using hexagon for many years, and as it continues to evolve and different styles and shapes and formats, I love it. I just did a beautiful backsplash in a hex about that scale, because looking at it, it looks like that's probably about a 3 or 4 inch hex, and it's a nice scale. I think playing with the scale, when we did the trends presentation, we are actually seeing some softer curves on the larger scale hex as well, which is really interesting. And then there's a small insert when you're laying it out on flooring or wall that kind of fills that little gap and enhances the curved edges. So I'm also loving the very linear hex, but I'm loving this sort of kind of movement towards sort of curved edges on the geometric shapes.
So is it all just personal preference? I love this look, this clean look of a V1. When I say V1, not a lot of shade variation, just a little bit of variation of this type of color. I just think that's gorgeous. But then you've got what, 2 or 3 or 4 shades here and multiple shades here. This is just personal preference, or as a designer, what are your thoughts?
It's absolutely personal preference for sure, because I'll have clients who want something very clean, where that, like in that picture that you like that we had just shown, where there's very little variation. But sometimes the variation is the beauty of the design, because in other areas of the room it's in, we might be pulling from that tile for colors for our furnishings and other things that go in the room. So when I have a backsplash with a lot of color variation and it's an open kitchen to a living room, I could pull from those tones, even if it's neutrals, into my furnishings, into those things, so it all connects as one design. So you could either go, super neutral and more homogeneous in the color, less shade variation, or let that shade variation play to the design itself. Something for everyone.
That's great. So what about this? I think this is just gorgeous, but I'm looking at large format gauged porcelain tile panels on the wall by the tub, and then a really squared in beautiful little area for the splash of the water around the tub, then a different pattern on the floor, gorgeous porcelain rectangulars. I mean, this is a tile, National Tile Day dream. And then over above the vanities, you have something else. Is this a trend to work with multiple different patterns in an area this small, in a room of this size or magnitude?
So I love this, first of all, Bart, because as a designer for me, and from the first installation and design showcase at Coverings that we spoke about earlier, that allowed me to pick from so many different types of tile and create one great design. Of course, there's something to be said for a very clean look where everything is the same and it's beautiful, maybe some slabs and panels and just keeping that clean look. But I love when you could really kind of delve into the design and use a multitude of tile, different types and shapes and sizes that all work together. And I think why this works so well is because, of course, where they do the herringbone floor in the wood porcelain, that obviously presents as wood, even though, of course, it's a tile. So it allows us to look like we have a natural stone look on the walls. We have a wood look. So it's representing different materials, but all tile. So I think it's such a great blend. And as you notice, the different scale, you have the slab, you have the sort of wood plank, maybe a 4x4 it looks like on the vanity wall, and then a smaller tile on that tub platform. So I think really playing with scale and color and pattern allows this to work really successfully. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, everything works for me in this particular installation photo in that room. Just a reminder, if people have any questions, I know we have a good crowd here. If you have questions for Elena or for myself, you can certainly put it in the chat box, and Michelle will get to those when we can. This is again an example of multiple colors and shapes all coming together with the gold and it looks like cut pieces also working in there. So I don't know if you have anything to say on that, Elena, but just another example of working with multiple different materials.
Yeah, they even had that chevron in the floor, which was nice, a mix of.
Yeah, and this is where I think you talked about where transitioning these products to like a wood look porcelain is also a trend, right?
Yep, I love pairing the wood look porcelain, especially in like a shower or wet area, because obviously it's unexpected. It is a tile, but it presents itself as adding that wood element within the rest of the tile. And visually, I love the mix.
So the blue with the wood look works for you, right?
I like it because, there's probably a cabinet in the same room that pulls from that wood tone. And my favorite part about mixing in a wood porcelain is bringing in natural wood tones that might be in cabinetry to tie it all together.
That's great. This one I wanted to ask you about because I've been in the tile business, I'm embarrassed to say, for like 35 plus years. This product or this look goes way, way back, this particular one. Have you seen this? We used to call it a French écaille type pattern, but have you seen this? And is this starting to become used again?
So the fish scale, as I feel like we call some
Fish-
of that now, we are seeing so much of that in Mosaic. And I mean, I'm in South Florida, Bart. So here, of course, a lot of people like the coastal and the more, looks where a fish scale is like such a cool backsplash or an accent in a shower or an accent in a, some sort of restaurant or hospitality setting. It's a great pattern. A lot of people are very drawn to it. And I love seeing stuff that came from a certain time frame and comes back. Like when we're demoing a project and you see some of the older tile and you're like, wow, that shape is still current. To see the cycle of trends is really, and the evolution of them as well.
For sure, I think it's coming back. I had not seen it for probably 20 years, and all of a sudden I was getting pictures from our members, and I'm like, this is a product that was used, as you said, as a mosaic tile. I saw it used often on walls, and I saw it in a lot of pastel type colors, like you said, your almost your ocean type colors. But definitely seeing that trend come back.
Yes, for sure.
I'm talking, so here, endless design options. This particular one is the larger tile put on the floor. So I'm guessing that they utilized some kind of linear drain system,
Yes.
right?
I think in the very back, I see it. And I love that it's a sort of flipped. And what here, though, Bart, that I noticed from a design standpoint that I love is pairing a herringbone pattern with a larger scale hex. I mean, not large, just a larger hex. Typically, you would think those would fight one another, but the way it was done here, and I pair a lot of herringbone with hex, the scale, but also the way it's grouted, because they popped the hex pattern with the white, but then chose for the herringbone to kind of just blend in the grout and the color of the tile itself. So you get the pattern, but if you had grouted both of those in contrasting grouts, it might have been a lot. But contrasting one and going subtle on the other, like it is here, is a perfect way to mix different patterns.
Yeah, that's great. And as the designer, because just again, this one just works for me. Do you pick then that shower door and all the fixtures? Is that your role as well?
Yeah, we're doing it all from A to Z. So, and even of course our grout colors, which is one of the biggest things as designers that we have to help our clients with to make their entire space finish off beautifully, because every element matters.
I love what you said there, which I had not thought of, but this designer, they really flip-flopped this, didn't they? I mean, most of what we see is the hexagon on the wall and that other pattern on the floor. And this one really worked for me. I thought it was very unique.
I like it a lot. And I also, in this one, again, we talk about the niches. Sometimes the smallest areas are an opportunity to go bold with your tile, or sometimes it's an opportunity to blend it in and have that pattern continue as it does here. And in this case, I like that they left it seamless so that floor really speaks and just didn't accent that. There's your good scale.
Here's the fish scale again, but here, you know what? This is just really good workmanship, isn't it? I mean, you look at that carry through of the grout joint right into the pattern. That's got to be a lot of work.
Yeah, that looks great. And I love that with this type, in this case, with the contrasting grout, this pattern is so fun and it just pops.
I can't tell on the inside corner, but it almost looks like they're cutting almost equal cuts. I can't tell for sure, but it looks like a beautiful layout. They probably laid that out to make that work on that back wall and flow into that niche, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a perfect thing. And then you have to think about it in terms of design, because that curb is, a set and determined amount on the shower if it's not like a barrier-free shower. So, I mean, the way this laid out so perfectly and probably in alignment with that is great.
And they utilize the profile strip I see on the edge as well. Is this just a pattern design, or this is a unique type design? I would think you don't get a call for this.
Very popular, and again, in installation, I love the way it's done here. I mean, this gives you a multitude of colors, not just a chevron in one wood, porcelain, or one product. Really cool and bold. This definitely makes a statement, and it's a lot of fun.
It almost looks like a rug,
Yeah.
I had to throw this in. This is one of our great female tile installers. By the way, we are growing by leaps and bounds with young women taking on a lead role as installers, and I think it spells out to the creative component of tile installation. Are you finding many female installers down in South Florida?
Not as many here, but you know what? I would love to see it continue to grow because I think it's great. And who knows, maybe one day I'll take into learning to install tile myself.
Yeah, well, this is that example again of an elongated hex. I really believe the success we've had with young women entering the trade ties into the artistic component of tile installation. This is
Absolutely.
actually Jamie from Metal Tile, a member of NTCA, and proudly displaying a beautiful installation of an elongated hex. Tell me about this. This transitions to other materials. This is a pretty cool job. This looks like a lot of work to cut this in. What are your thoughts on this particular
You can
design?
look at this and tell the time, the planning, the collaboration that, I mean, that made this happen. Anyone who's in our profession, any design, tile installation industry, any industry related can look at this and see how much work went into probably making this happen. So I am also, I'm not sure if that's a wood porcelain, a wood slab. It looks like a natural material, but again, you never know.
I think I didn't ask the member, but I think what we're looking at is, you're right. I think that's actually wood. I don't think that's porcelain tile. I think the floor tile and the black tile, and then I believe that's wood, but either wood or cutting into porcelain tile, that's a lot of work, right?
Absolutely. It's a super cool design. One of my favorite things, I think, is when you sort of have that unexpected look. And that's so bold and cool and different. And that's what I love about tile, is that you can create endless designs.
Now here they used a contrasting grout color here, and it works for you, right?
Yes, because I think also, look, the floor has a white ground to it. And sometimes you want to have that connection. Like as a designer, we always want something to connect so it pulls it together. And I think having that white grout sort of pulls in a little bit of the white in the ground of the floor tile as well. I love this. It's very, very cool.
Thank you. And this is another example of multiple different patterns used outside of going into a shower. This, talk to me about this. This is pretty cool. What are your thoughts on this one?
So this is another great example, Bart, of like the one we had just shown before that, with sort of where we can't tell if it was the wood or not next to it. I love this, and I've been seeing a lot more of this. And I see it a lot also in commercial applications, like cool floors, maybe in the restaurants and things like that. We're seeing a lot of this mix of materials where there's this unexpected, talk about the geometric shapes, this hexagon cut into the wood porcelain. I think this is so cool. I absolutely love this. And I'm just wondering, I think, how do you think the edges are finished, or do you think it's just on the parts where it's up top? I was just trying to, that part I don't know, but whatever was done, it looks incredible.
There's no way you can utilize a profile strip like up on the top, like you said. My guess is that either it's not that visual of an edge, or they just leave it exposed, because it could be that that's 8-10 feet high, right? And nobody's really seeing it. That's
You'll never see the exposed edge. Yeah, this is super cool, and a great way to play with geometrics and also a wood porcelain accent. Like I love the pairing.
And I love the way they just threw some on the floor.
Yeah, it just like kind of just scattered. It's so well thought out, but it also gives that sort of almost accidental look where it's just like, scattered tile. I love it.
Okay, look, and this is transition. Look, again, this is workmanship, cutting and fitting. Just beautiful installation of two different materials.
Absolutely. The way they meet, it's fun. Again, I love the mixture of the different shapes and obviously the expert workmanship.
And what I like here is I don't think this is a bathroom. This looks to me, obviously, they've got pictures there. This looks like a utilization of a wall in a room space. It's pretty neat to see.
It is really cool.
Shows you the creative areas we can use tile. Okay. Look at the work here and this design. Any thoughts on this? I mean, look at the cutting into this material.
This is awesome too. So well done. And again, as a designer, we could dream up all the things, but if it can't be installed, so this is one of those things where synergy, I mean, the installer did a phenomenal job here getting this. I mean, it flows so beautifully. And Wow. Is Bart, is this an instance where in terms of labor, like something like this, in terms of the amount of time it takes to get that cut to mimic this, is this something that falls into the category where it is going to be in a higher category
It,
because it's
it,
obviously
it
time?
does. It does. And that's where I thought the input from my members was so valuable, which was, let's talk about the design and let me do a mock-up. Let me look at what this is. If you do a mock-up, of a small area with these materials, you then can determine how much work does that take to do in a per
Right.
square foot basis. And that allows you to then talk to the client. In a lot of cases with our members that reached out to me, this is not a per square foot type pricing. This is art. This
Yeah.
is work that the client has decided that this room is integral to the theme and the design of their house. And when you have that, most of the time, you're not fighting the contractor about the price. If you are getting the desired look that you want, the price becomes somewhat inconsequential, I think,
Yes.
often.
Absolutely.
And that's where it's so important that the tile contractor has a relationship with either the consumer or the general contractor or the builder, so that they know, the builder and general contractor know the tile contractor is going to figure out what their labor is and work with the client, as to what they need to get paid, because they should make money if you have, on a job like this. But on the same token, they should be reasonable, and and that's usually the case. So this is very often a time and material type bid, as you said, or certainly a day rate type bid. Now
Beautiful.
this is cool because you're working with a geometric pattern along with multiple geometric patterns with like a chair rail. Is that what you think?
Yeah, yeah, the chair rail profiles, I love those. I really enjoy using those for years. I think they're a classic staple when you're doing that sort of transitional to traditional bath. And I kind of love, I mean, and that's something that typically you would pair with a either a beveled subway tile, a regular flat edge subway tile like this, of different sizes, right? But I love the way they added the other geometric shape above, because it almost gives like an acme of like a wallpaper that would be above a chair rail, because this one comes in more pattern, and the way it's grouted just lives as a pattern, and sort of the wainscoting feels like the subway tile with that sort of chair rail cap. So it kind of gives you the effect of maybe having a wallpaper, but it's actually tile above.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's really nice. This is another example. That's actually a hexagon brought into a porcelain tile. And you said that's a trend you're seeing on a pretty consistent basis.
Yep, I'm seeing it in local restaurants, and even I see it a lot more, I think, in a lot of commercial, but I have seen in residential as well. I think this is super cool, and I love the mix of materials.
That's great. That's another example. I've never seen this pattern. It looks like that's almost a designed mural. Does that
Yes,
make sense? Yeah.
yeah, I think so too, because it's very specific to the shape of the space. Very cool though.
So talk to me about this trend. I had not seen these up until a year or two ago, a lot of them. The triangle component. What are your thoughts on these?
Right. Well, in for this year's tile trends, we definitely seeing a lot of the triangular shape emerging. So I love it, from smaller scale to a little bit larger. And I think this is cool the way it's paired in this pattern with the hex. I mean, that's a really interesting pattern, and it plays so well because of the triangular shape with the herringbone on the floor. It's something unexpected, and it just works. And the reason I think it works so well is because the herringbone's a really small scale, but plays with the angles, of course, in the hexagon and the triangle in that larger scale on the wall. And I
That's
love that they both have contrasting grout here, because it allows both to play, because the sizes are different enough to not fight one another.
it's just that part. This particular installation really works for me. And then here's triangles in multiple colors, right?
I love this too. And also we're seeing a lot of that coloration trending. That's a really, really cool pattern and installation.
So we talked about this a little bit. This is really an important component of working with geometric tiles, right? The grout considerations. This particular one has a blending grout. What are your thoughts? You said what makes you decide which way to go with this?
So, Bart, the grout, like I said, with InDesign, I feel like it's everything, and it's everything because that could change the whole look of what you're trying to achieve with your tile design, whether it's contrasting, whether sometimes we're using multiple different grout colors in one design to make it all work. And I know that's not always the easiest thing, but it looks so good when you highlight certain shapes and maybe there's a different scale of where you're going more color matching with your grout. So I love playing around with the grout as a design tool to really change. You could have two completely different looks just by the grout alone and really enhance the shape.
And then the grout width is often something that the installer has to communicate back based upon the size and thickness variations of the actual tiles themselves. Do you specify the grout width, or is that a communication between you and the installer?
It's definitely communication, and where we're gonna lean on them for, of course, their knowledge on this, but we will discuss what we would like to achieve based on the product itself. So we're always in conversation about that, the grout, the other finishing things as well.
Okay, this is yours. Talk to me a
Yes.
little bit about this one. I love this, and I think one of our members, Angie Ray, was involved in this, but talk to me about this project.
Yes, she was. So this is cool. I know it's not fully like geometric shapes, but I wanted to share it because this is something interesting where the grout was everything also in this design. So this was for a local charity here in West Palm Beach, and this is actually an ADA compliant bathroom for a home called Kid Sanctuary where foster children live. And this was the young boys' bathroom in the house that I designed. So the shower is barrier free. So I'd always wanted to do a football themed something with tile. And I thought, well, if it's a barrier free shower, then the shower could be the end zone. So couldn't have a curb. It would not work with a curb. It had to be that clean look. So I found, and finding this shade of green, now it would be easy because it's trending, but then I had to look really hard to get just the exact color, just the exact type of tile that was right for that floor. And then I was fortunate enough to work with, so Angie did the beautiful mosaic work on this 3D football, which you could see on the right is going over the goalpost, which is around the window, centered on the shower wall. And she had worked with Rod Catwick to also, he did the mold, she did the mosaic work, and it's modeled after an actual regulation size football. So it's perfect size and look. And this was just, I wanted to do something because I've worked with coverings for so many years and so closely with so many in the tile industry. When I designed this bathroom, I knew it had to have really cool tile and a cool tile installation. And I actually worked with the tile installers that they provided at the house. And I had 5 colors of grout in this one small bathroom. So we had green, and Mapei was generous enough to work with me to do custom color match of the green for the football field. We did a fluorescent yellow for the goalpost, and you can't see the end zone there, but it's the home team colors. So we have aqua and orange for the Dolphins, and there's aqua and orange grout, and there's actually some glass brick tile and orange and aqua in the niches as well. So there I did white grout to pop the geometric, just sort of the pattern itself.
Just such a fun design. Congratulations on this. And that football just jumps out at you. How do you accomplish that? That's just all part of the mosaic of the product? Because it just looks like it's jumping right, like it's ready to be kicked.
So it was done, Rod Catwick created this 3D mold from an actual football, and then he sent it to Angie, and Angie did the beautiful mosaic work. I mean, when that arrived in the mail, I was like, this is amazing. And then it was just the perfect completion piece. I just felt like a 3D tile element, an unexpected 3D element, and it was so high up, so it wouldn't be something that was like in the way, or that putting it over the goalpost was the final piece to complete this tile design. I want to do something fun for a future project with them as well. I really enjoy working specifically with charities where you could do just fun spaces, in this case for the children that live there.
That's great. And so I thought this was an interesting one. So on a product like this, what would you as a designer do from a grout selection standpoint? You got a blue and a white. So what do you do?
So on this one, for me, my personal opinion, again, everyone might have a different. I would match the frame of sort of this arabesque and kind of go in that linen bone color. And the reason I like that is because then it completes the arabesque. And that's actually my business logo is an arabesque. So I love this shape. This is one of my favorite shapes. And I would have it so it highlights it and kind of goes around that.
It's a beautiful product. Yeah, this is again a grout color. Here they would have selected, I'm assuming they selected to go with the black, right?
Yeah, to pop just the white hexagons solely as themselves. Very cool.
Great. And here you have a natural gray to just give what, a subtle variation?
I do. I love that gray. And also for me on a floor, anytime I'm going with a white tile, I'm now leaning more towards going with, no matter where it is, even in residential, we're going towards the softer platinums and stuff like that if it matches with the veining look in the tile like here. Just I think for wear and tear on the floor, I think it will always withstand it and really look beautiful for years to come. And it's a cool way to pop the pattern.
It does. It's a beautiful installation. It's on a 50% offset. So this is another example of where I believe the member did a mock-up to make sure that they could pull off a 50% offset with that grout width in order, and they probably had to, had a very flat level floor in order to pull that off with that particular material.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, we're down to about my last 10 minutes here, and I wanted to get to a couple of important components related to the installation specifications. Our members do beautiful work. For those that are involved in the installation of tile, it's always just an important reminder, that we really believe in the trowel and air method here at NTCA, which is directional troweling, keying in your mortar, directional troweling that mortar once it's been keyed in order to achieve as close to 100% coverage as possible. You've got coverage requirements for all of these products. Do not swirl trowel, do not spot bond. I'm not going into that on a technical, that far of a technical nature, but spot bonding these products is highly not recommended. This is also an important consideration when you're working with a lot of mosaic tiles. You have the mesh backing behind, and a lot of these products, your penny round, close-up shows the round tile on a different mesh backing. These products come from all over the world, and a lot of different glues are used on the mesh backing. So as a tile contractor, it is really important to look at that material and generally ask the supplier, which would be either the distributor or the tile manufacturer, for recommendations of the type of thin set or type of mortar to use with these particular products. And if you can't get that in writing or get a recommendation, it's often a very good idea to talk to an installation material company to get a recommendation from them, or have them look at the material to make a recommendation for you as well. So, those mesh backings behind can be bond breakers, and it's really important to understand that going into your project. And then you'll get a result like this, which is a beautiful mosaic installation. And then always really important for us to stress the importance of EJ 171. It gets to be a challenge with geometric products to meet the requirements for movement accommodation. EJ 171 is in the TCNA handbook. You have the requirements of putting in accommodation for movement, a maximum of 25 feet in each direction. If you're doing an exterior job, it's 8 to 12 feet in each direction. And in interior, if it's exposed to sunlight or moisture, that becomes a maximum of 12 feet in each direction. Above ground concrete slab, 12 feet in each direction. And it's also important to consider a soft joint in the perimeter of the room. And you are working with so many different materials, as I mentioned. And this is important, that the design professional or the engineer is required. Don't ask the tile installer to draw in or lay out movement accommodation. That is the requirement of the design professional or the architect or engineer to show the locations and details of movement joints on their projects. So with that, Elena, I really thank you for sharing some of your design expertise. Michelle, I'm going to bring you back in to see if there were any questions. If not, I really thank everybody for being a part of kind of a fun look at all. We talk about trends, right, Elena? But what I thought was cool here is to show what's actually happening out in the real world. So those pictures were from the mountains in Colorado, Atlanta Braves Stadium, jobs in North Dakota, in the Midwest, residential jobs and commercial jobs from many parts of the country. And I think that's pretty cool to show that.
Absolutely. It was a really fun discussion. I learned a lot just being part of these and also seeing a lot and seeing the beautiful work of many of the members throughout the U.S. Really nice. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. And thanks everyone.
And I'm gonna jump in. Yeah. We did have a couple comments that I'll just share that Elena, someone brought up, Elizabeth said it's so true about grout color when combining different shapes, have one grout blend and the other contrast. And then, of course, she mentioned that the importance of thickness on shower walls when combining varying tiles. But then we had a question on the multicolor hexagon installs. How much does the designer influence the pattern, or is it left up to the installer to randomly create the pattern?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that a little bit, right, Elena? So I'll let you go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, when there's a pattern, I mean, literally the first bathroom I ever designed 20 years ago had a white subway tile with like dispersed throughout frosted blue and frosted amber. It was actually, I think it might have been Crossville, glass tile bricks. And this was my first design ever, and I laid that out and marked where exactly each one went, and they had a set of elevations with a color key and everything else. So when, as a design professional, you want a specific installation, you're going to work with your installers, but you're going to me, give them the plans with it laid out so they know exactly what's going where.
Yeah, that's really an interesting comment and a really good question. I guess if I had just a minute, Michelle, to get on my soapbox about, these kinds of projects are just not the areas where you really want to be fighting about pricing or getting the lowest or the least expensive bid. We talk a lot about installer qualifications. This is an illustration and an example of hiring qualified installers to do this kind of work. These showers and all of these other areas require craftsmanship and skill, and you should be talking about hiring the most qualified bids and not so much the least expensive bids. And when you're in distribution or in retail, be talking to your client about hiring. Certification is important, but if not certification, certainly companies that have a proven track record of success, who probably have a portfolio that can show you this type of work, that they have successfully completed this type of work. All right,
so
Michelle,
we have a follow-up question, and this is to Elena. As a designer, is it better to get your materials from one source or multiple sources? Or again, from my perspective, he didn't ask this, but I think that could affect what materials you're looking for.
Yes, definitely has to do with what materials we're looking for, and then based on where you're purchasing from, because there are times where certain people carry certain lines and you might need a specific thing that's not carried there. So I think kind of based on what you're looking to put together in terms of product, we might be mixing different types, different brands, and different sources.
Okay, thank you. And then someone asked, and Bart, this is probably more yours, that when cutting on wet saw, he's having a lot of trouble with the mosaics falling off sheets, or they just fall off when he picks up the sheets. Are there any suggestions?
Well, I'm not the mechanic. I can pass that question on to our trainers, but it's often the case that if that that you do have to cut it individually. But there's probably tool companies they can talk to, or wet saw companies. It might just have to do with the actual wet saw. There may be, or the blade itself. So, but I'll definitely try to follow up, or you could give my information and I could get a better question. But I do know they run into this kind of thing out in the field.
I was going to say, and Becky did respond, Becky Serban, who is with NTCA. And she said, I believe that NTCA has a video on that on their YouTube page.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Becky.
Don't have any more questions unless anyone has anything. We'll give you a minute.
Well, I just want to make sure that people know that this is a great celebration of National Tile Day, but that Las Vegas Convention Center, April 5th through the 8th, and we're really hoping to see everybody at Coverings back in Las Vegas. You'll see a multitude of these types of products. We're going to have an outstanding exhibition of tile. Many of the manufacturers that were not able to be there in Orlando last year are back, definitely from our partners in Italy and Spain, and from all over the world. And we hope that everyone will come to Coverings April 5th through the 8th. I'm right, Michelle? That's the dates.
You're correct. You're correct. So I think we are out of time. I want to thank you both, Bart and Elena. That was fabulous as always. And it was a great conversation, and some fabulous pictures from your members, Bart. I want to remind everybody, when you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we appreciate it if you complete it and provide your feedback. And as Bart mentioned, we hope everyone's going to join us April 5th through 8th in Las Vegas. Registration is open, and as always, it is complimentary. You can register today at coverings.com. Thanks, everybody, and have a good day, and hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.